Yes, thank you for the 20 million view. That was a nice milestone to get through on the 20 million viewed. So we've got folks that have been calling in, and I've got them on the line. So this would be a good time. In the after show, you can ask any question you want. I don't care what we talk about. We can talk about anything. If I don't know, I'll say I have no idea what you're talking about. We'll go to the next topic. But we do have someone calling in who's been sitting on hold for 16 minutes, it seems, from the 575 area code. Are you there, caller?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, what's your name?
Professor. My name is Jacob.
Hey, Jacob. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for sitting on hold for so long.
Not a problem.
What can we do for you today?
So basically, I have kind of questions, maybe kind of one at the moment. This is actually regarding with routing protocols.
Okay.
My kind of concern is I don't know if I'm exactly overstudying this exam, but as far as the routing protocols, are we required to know anything specific with, let's say, anything technical with like RIP or EIGRP? Or is this kind of a general overview of the routing and switching?
Fortunately, on the Network Plus exam, it is just a general piece. So if you go to something like you're taking a Cisco certification, they're going to want you to know, how does RIP work? And they're going to want you to know about the 60-second timers and what is sent across those 60-second timers. They're going to want you to know about the 16 maximum hops available to be able to send across those links. They're going to want you to know about redundancy and what happens with convergence when those protocols happen. But for the Network Plus, they don't want to know that level of detail at all. You should know about the protocol. In fact, in my courseware, in my videos, I describe how these things work at a very high level. I think it's maybe one slide that I discuss RIP, one slide that I discuss EIGRP, one slide that I discuss those different types of routing protocols, and that's it. You will not have to dive into the details. For instance, I tell you in EIGRP, here's all of the things that are considered, that could be considered to build up the metrics that are used for EIGRP. But we don't actually step through the algorithm to determine what those metrics are. Now, if you took a Cisco course, you would need to know the algorithm and how all of those things are calculated together. For the Network Plus, nope. You need to know that it takes into account bandwidth. It takes into account the delay. It could take into account a lot of different things. But you don't have to know exactly what those numbers might be on the outside. You just have to know that the better metric means that you would use that link over something else. Does that make sense?
Yes, so it's definitely just administrative distance and matrix information as far as what the routing protocols are using.
Yep. Yeah, you should be able to have that very broad perspective, and you'll be just fine for your Network Plus exam. Any other questions, other thoughts, ideas, comments, suggestions?
I think that was the main question. I'm kind of looking at my list here. I don't see anything specific. Everything's kind of just general.
Well, Jacob, thanks for calling in. Thanks for watching the study group. And of course, if other questions come up through the month, go to the website, go up to contact us, send me an email. They all come directly to me.
Will do.
Thanks very much. Appreciate the call. It's one of those that the Network Plus has a lot of topics on it. We almost think the A Plus had so many topics on it, but Network Plus gets into these very specific topics about abbreviations and routing protocols, and they want you to know a lot. And if you've now combined that with other certification classes that you may be taking, that could be quite a bit of information. We've got another call that's come in from 1111111. I suspect that may be a Skype caller. Are you there, caller?
Hello, you know who it is.
It's got to be M.A.
Yes, it is.
How are you, sir?
Oh, pretty good. Since I missed last week, I thought I'd check and make sure that it was working.
Completely my fault last week.
I don't have a particular question, but I'll update you on one that I emailed you about. It's not looking like it's, a group policy. I'm looking, as I said in my email, I'm having problems with getting those configurations to stick. They revert back to their defaults when I close the program or close the other thing. So what I've decided to do was to take the approach of going the other way, starting with the application and getting some support from their support people to see if they know, what it might be in regards to the particular application itself.
Right.
For all I know, in one of the apps, it might be that the support group just sets it that way and doesn't bother to let you doesn't let you persist the configuration change. It goes back to the default when you exit the program.
Certainly possible.
I want them to confirm that.
Yeah.
And then we'll work on the other thing later on.
I run into this a lot, though. I had an application I was using this week. It was a meeting application, one of those you go into, and there's a phone line people can call into. It's an online webinar meeting type system.
Right.
So every time I would go into the software, it would reconfigure the audio settings for my system. And because I use voice over IP for doing almost everything, it actually lowered the volume. So I would jump into the conference call and say, "Hi, everybody, I'm on the call." And they'd say, "You're really far away. We can't really hear you." I have to go into my volume and turn it all the way up again. And they go, "Oh, yeah, you sound fine now. There's no problem at all." And then I would exit the program. I would go back into the program, and it would change them again. So sometimes these applications can poke around and do things that you really would not like them to do. And I don't think the developers have really thought a lot of this through.
Yeah, I'm just, it would be, I looked at my domain controller. It could be the domain policy setting. It could be a domain. I don't think it's domain controller policy setting. But
right.
Maybe a domain controller a domain setting. But it's just so many of them, I can't figure out which one it might be. So it's probably better to go the other way, start with the application and see if they'll tell me if anything is governed by any of those policy settings.
Right. There's only a million registry and group policy settings it could possibly be. One of those challenges.
Right. So anyway, all right, glad things are back. Hopefully I'll see you next month. I'll be traveling. I'll be in your area in Florida. I'll send you an email with those details.
Yeah, let me know.
We can at least get together for a cup of coffee.
Absolutely. There's a Starbucks just down the street from me. That'd be perfect.
Okay. Well, that would be great.
Right on the interstate. Absolutely. Let me know when you're coming through. Talk to you then.
Okay. Take care. Thanks, sir.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
There is quite a bit. And we were talking, the particular problem that came up with MA was dealing with group policy and dealing with configuration settings. And every time you go into a program and make a change, you'd exit and it wouldn't stick. The problems wouldn't stick. And it was Windows configuration settings. And for those of you then listening to the study groups back and forth for so long, MA has been here and watching the study groups and participating and calling in for quite some time. There is so much to Active Directory. Somebody was mentioning in the chat room on the website yesterday. So I keep hearing about this Active Directory. Is that a big thing? Is that a thing I should know about? Yeah, that's a huge, enormous thing. You can get a very high level view of Active Directory. We explain in the chat room. Yes, it's a bit of a database directory system that you can put all of your people in and all of your resources and all of your printers and everything that you're doing. And you can use that as an authentication source. But it's also a way for Windows to be able to be managed from one centralized place. And I think that's really why Windows has done such a phenomenal job in the enterprise. That's why we see Windows running on so many people's desktops in business, is that the IT group can tell the machines, you are now part of Active Directory. And I'm going to now, in my machine, tell certain people in different departments or tell everybody globally in the company, you can now or you cannot change the background on your computer. That's a very simple Active Directory global policy that you could set. Nobody can change the background. Enter. And just from that one setting, nobody in the organization would be able to change the background because Windows restricts that. That's fantastic. From an IT perspective, that's fantastic. For somebody who likes a different background, that's awful. But that's just one example of Active Directory and be able to do that. That is where you really, really run into problems with this and being able to work with those things. Let's go to the chat room. Let me make sure we don't have any calls up. Let's go to the chat room. There's Robert's in the chat room. Voice over IP in an alarm system. Let's say that an alarm systems need a telephone line to be able to communicate out. And the question here is, anybody run into trouble with their alarm and their DSL? I'm not sure how that deals with voice over IP, because alarm systems generally don't use voice over IP. They usually use traditional POTS, the plain old telephone system, to communicate. But obviously DSL is a bit more of a challenge because you effectively have an analog system, which is your regular phone, your POTS connections, and you have a digital system, which is your DSL, running on the same wire. Now, that's why you will see these filters that are used that you use to plug in that will filter out frequencies that are used by the different sides. So that it's important that if you have you'll have to talk to your provider and figure out which side needs to be filtered in your environment. But that's where you would really get into these challenges with filtering out the technology. And making sure you have them on the right lines. If one thing doesn't have the right lines, and usually it's your analog devices that need these filters. So if you don't have the filters in place on the alarm system, then the alarm system won't be able to communicate out and work on that plain old telephone system very well. If you also then have voice over IP that you've combined, because that's what I have in my house. I got rid of my POTS. I have it all voice over IP. I have to have some way to convert from my older phone systems that are using POTS to now use the voice over IP. And there's a gateway that I physically plug into to convert. It effectively does this conversion between the POTS line and now the voice over IP connection. And again, you have to make sure that the phone system is plugging into that. The one that's being used for the alarm is plugging into one of those gateways to be able to use it. There's also it's kind of sketchy though to be able to do that. A lot of these alarm systems are dialing up and then sending digital signals over that. Think of them like a fax machine when it's doing this. And a lot of the voice over IP systems will not support those high frequencies to be able to send out over those links. You have to get a voice over IP system that specifically can do things like support faxes or support digital communication over the analog lines. And your gateway may not be able to do that. There may be some incompatibilities there. And troubleshooting that can just be a massive problem. Because sometimes the alarm system is doing it one way, the telephone system gateway to get to the voice over IP doing another way. Neither of them knows what the other one is doing. Neither of them is tested with each other. And therefore, it's really up to you to do all the hard work. Really quite a challenge. So check your voice over IP provider and just generically say, do you support faxes? Do you support alarm systems? Tell me more about this gateway. That may be able to help you. But it can be such a mess with voice over IP to use those types of technologies. Really a pain. There is, Jeremy asks in the chat room, in a large organization, is it better to put the proxy server between the internal LAN and the internet or on a load balancer? Well, you can do it either way, but let's step through what these different things are used for, probably more importantly. Proxy server, in fact, everybody who is coming into Professor Messer's using a reverse proxy. In this particular question, and Jeremy, you may be able to qualify this. When we're talking about a proxy server going out to the internet, we're usually talking about one on the inside that people are using to communicate out, where everybody has to talk to the proxy server. The proxy server then talks to Google, gets the answer back, and then finally sends it down to you. So it's a middleman between you and the internet. And there is, at one point, people thought that was safe or safer than having a direct connection to the internet. As we found out these days, it really didn't help very much at all, because we've got just the malware comes in just as easily through a proxy server as it does through anything else, it seems. So you see fewer and fewer proxy servers being used these days. They complicate the communication. They're difficult to configure and set up. You have to have many of them because they perform so poorly that you have to have many of them just to keep things up and running. And you could absolutely put them on a load balancer. If a single proxy server is not giving you the performance you need, you can either beef up that single proxy, or you can have a load balancer to load balance between the outgoing proxies. Now, if it's inbound traffic, that's a completely different kind of proxy. That's a reverse proxy. And I think in my Network Plus, I break out for you the differences between a proxy and a reverse proxy. And I mentioned earlier, I have a reverse proxy you hit when you go to ProfessorMesser.com. The reverse proxy sends you to my load balancer, which then load balances internally. So, boy, it's a conversation you can really spend hours whiteboarding out. And I have to talk about how do I integrate my firewall and my outbound proxy, and I want to have a reverse proxy on the inside, and how do I put the load balancer on that. It can really get into a lot of details to be able to make that happen. Really quite a challenge. And yes, as Benny mentions in the chat room, proxy servers actually, they can scan for viruses. So how come this malware still keeps getting through them? Because the antivirus software knows nothing of all of these viruses that are coming in. They're days behind in updating signatures. So the bad guys know they can produce a piece of malware, go right through these antivirus software. And so, your proxy's spending all of that time and effort scanning it, and yet there's so much coming through these days that it's completely missing on the antivirus side. Very, very much of a pain to be able to do that. Phone lines are open. My voice is still holding out, so the phone lines are still open. You're welcome to call in. If you go to professormesser.com/live, the phone numbers are there just under the video. You're welcome to call in. And we're also taking questions in the chat room as well. There's quite a bit. One of the things I mentioned during the study group was the simulators, or people call them sims. It's really performance-based questions, because on the exam, you may, and this applies to all the CompTIA A+, Network Plus, Security Plus. I think they're doing CASP, which is the higher-end security certification now, is they're giving you these performance-based questions. These might be fill in the blank. They might be matching questions. They might be putting things in a particular order from highest to lowest, or they might be what we traditionally think of as a simulation, where you're given a command prompt or a window screen and you have to perform a function. This is one of those. So there's a number of pieces of software out there. And Donnie was asking in the chat room if anybody's used any of those. I haven't. So if anybody has any recommendations, I would love to hear about those. And if you're watching the replay, you can send me an email. Go to the Contact Us link at the top of the Professor Messer website. I'd like to know your experiences as well. Yes, the malware piece on 0 day, which is continuing in the chat room, that conversation, is a massive, massive problem. You've got these polymorphic malware now that change themselves every time they're downloaded. You have to have specific signatures available for those. It's a cat and mouse game. There's different ways to go about doing this these days. And you would think of 0 day as something that rarely happens. 0 day happens all the time, multiple times a day, thousands of times a day, to be able to find these pieces of malware. There's malware out there that I saw identified weeks ago that none of the antivirus companies have yet to create a signature for. Weeks. We're not talking days, we're talking weeks. Our antivirus system is painfully broken in so many ways that too much is getting through. And we need other technologies to be able to find these pieces of malware and be able to stop them. It's getting harder and harder and harder to make that happen. So that's one that you can think of as you're going through. And if you're setting up a proxy server so that you can do an antivirus scan of network traffic, you're great for plugging into a network that was 10 years ago. You're in bad shape if you're trying to block things that are happening with modern security these days. Quite a bit of challenge. Yeah, polymorphic is different than an encrypted piece of malware, or malware that's hiding itself by using encryption or compression to be able to see what's going on there. That's what I do day to day. So if I'm speaking from a place where I get to see this Monday through Friday, I'm sitting in other people's offices in their buildings watching this happen. All of these things are pretty recent on there in those pieces. I think, security is a big part, as Jeremy's mentioned, where his coworkers are saying security is the future of IT. There's so many places where IT is doing well right now. Security is a very, very fast and emerging side of it, and that's a great place to go if you're looking at an IT or career in IT. Software-defined networking is another one. It's extremely hot. That it leverages a huge amount on the virtualization technologies we have today. So that virtualization, the software-defined networking, our internal clouds that we are using, or even external cloud-based technologies, those are great places to get some knowledge with IT. Those are the hot areas right now. If you're going to get hired into an organization in networking, in IT, in development, they're going to ask you about these technologies and how much you know about them, because they're also looking at these technologies and they need people that are at least familiar enough or have experience in using them enough that they could bring them in and have somebody at least that's farther along than what they've done so far. It's tough when you get into IT and you're working in an organization. It's really hard to stay abreast of all the latest things. You're spending a lot of time going to trade shows and going to these conferences. You're spending a lot of time listening to analysts like Gartner, because those are very good at telling you, here's what other people are doing. Gartner, probably the premier analyst that's out there, costs a lot of money to get information from Gartner or to participate with Gartner in doing things. But that's because they're so good. They listen and have so many customers throughout the world. They see what other people are doing with virtualization, with security, with SDN, and they can help you understand more about those pieces too. Mobile technology. Mobile tech probably not as hot as the others, but obviously we've got so many mobile devices that MDM, or mobile device management, now becomes an important part of what we need to think about when we are talking about IT and where this industry is going. And of course, we still have all these other technologies we have to support as well. Operating systems. You've got web-based clients and services that we have running. You've got storage area networks. All of these things. And it's usually a mixture. Even someone like me, I'm one person and I've got a bunch of computing equipment. A lot of what I do, I've got infrastructure as a service that I'm using effectively for my servers. The web servers I use are really cloud-based servers that I could add more memory to, add more disk space to, modify the size of the processor at any point. They're all out in the cloud somewhere. I don't actually know where they are. I think they're in Dallas. So Dallas, Texas, I think is where my servers are. But I don't know for sure. They're somewhere in the cloud. They can move them at an instant anywhere they would like, and I'm fine with that. There is software as a service, the chat that we're using on my website. It's not my chat. I don't maintain it. I don't program it. I happily pay someone else to provide me with the service that goes right at the bottom of my screen, and now they're providing me that software. So that's fantastic. That's exactly what I want. I want to spend my time making videos for you, producing training content, making the study guides, creating some new things. And I can't do that if I'm spending my time programming and developing in a chat room. So I'm happy to use software as a service to be able to do those types of things. Platforms as a service. I don't know that I have a lot of platforms I use, although I do have most of what I do is in Google Mail. I've got also a lot of platforms as a service. The advertising that goes on the Professor Messer website is Google AdSense. That also helps pay for all of these infrastructure costs that we have. And that is a bit of a platform as a service. I don't have my own ad people. I'm not selling ads to people directly. If somebody wants to buy an ad from me, I'd say go to Google and they'll give you an ad to put on my website. I don't have to worry about that. And that's from a business perspective, whether you're one person like me or whether you work in a very large enterprise, you've got the same challenges. What does your enterprise do? Do you sell insurance? Well, why are you wasting your time programming a chat room? Why are you wasting your time doing these other things? Shouldn't I just pay someone else to do that for me? And there's obviously advantages and disadvantages behind doing that, as we've seen this week when the chat room stopped working for a night and there was no chat. Those things happen. So you kind of have to think about the provider that you're using for those pieces and getting it there. Yes, there's a lot in the chat rooms going. You got a lot going on there. There's quite a bit that you have in this mix of things. Yes, there is quite a bit that I've got going on, but you have to have it. So think about all the things that are going on right now. We've got audio that's going through this audio system. You can see the measurements, the VU meters are there going back and forth. So you can see just how much output's going on there. I need to be able to see what I'm sending you. So I've got a screen that's to the left of my primary monitor here that is showing everything that's in my video switcher, so I know what's coming up next. I can put graphics on the screen. I can do anything I'd like to do there. I've got the main screen that I do the primary pieces that you see. So if you wanted to see me demonstrating something, that's where I'm demonstrating it here. I've got a secondary monitor off to the side that you don't see, but that's where I do all of my phone lines of people calling in. That's where I see the chat room. My Twitter feed is here. I've got files that I pull up here. I've got PDFs that I've got here. All of my work that you never see goes on here. So if you see me during the study group and I'm pulling things up and I'm showing things and I'm mixing it around, that's the piece that you don't get to see right there. Off the side, you can't really see it on the screen here, but I've got a laptop here. That's what's showing the slides. So the slides are also being shown primarily on my iPad. I'm using this as a remote control for the slides. But basically it happens there. This is also where I control YouTube. I turn the stream on and off from here. Underneath this is another machine that's doing a backup video capture. I'm not only capturing video on my switcher, but I'm also capturing video on this device down here as well. I've got a Mac Mini that's doing video capture from that. So I've got a matrix that's sending video streams everywhere in here, and it's going off to that view. So that's able to, if something else goes wrong with the TriCaster, it goes wrong with the YouTube, I at least have another audio and video that I can go to there. And you can probably see a big screen that's up behind me. That's where I play Destiny. No, that's where the video switcher is. That's where I have all of the a big video switching screen. So instead of looking at this tiny little screen that's off camera, because if I was looking at that one the whole time, I'd be looking over here, which is off camera. Nobody likes to see the side of a face. So I can simply look up very quickly and see what's going on with those pieces. With those, it's very useful to have all of that there, but it's a lot of moving parts. So it's important to me that I use my resources exactly where I need to use them. And one of the things that if you're getting into business or you're interested in starting your own company, one of the big problems that people run into with doing that is they don't use their money well. It takes money to be able to make money or to be successful in business. There are things you should be spending time and money on. There's other things you should not be spending time and money on. And thankfully, software as a service and some of these other things really allow me to do those pieces. Very, very useful to have that there. All right, we're coming up on another 30 minutes, well after 30 minutes after we've done that. Can I see how long have I been capturing? Yeah, 26 minutes. Should have just looked up to see that piece. So that's effectively a tour. One of these days, I'm going to do a detailed tour of all of these devices that I have that you can't even see on the left and right side of this, because underneath my studio, you can kind of see some lights over here. If I get out of the way, you see there's a whole rack of things down here underneath on both the left and the right side, and you'll even get to see those. Just tons of equipment jammed into there for the audio, the video switching. There's a matrix switch for the video. There's other equipment for the UPS is in there. My SAN is in here. It's really more of a NAS, not really a SAN because I'm using it as a NAS. Extra backups for backup drives. I've got backups upon backups. My network switch is here. What else is here? What else have I got? Video switcher. I have an amp, a microphone amp that effectively distributes the audio to different places in here. But I'm making some changes. So I haven't done a tour quite yet of this. I'll be making some changes shortly. And as soon as I do that, we will absolutely be able to make that happen. Yeah, I've got a lot of, yes, there is quite a lot of Apple gear here. Mostly what I do from a video editing perspective is on Mac OS X. It could just as easily be Windows, I would think. But that's one of those things that I run here is quite a bit. There's not noise cancellation on the mic. I do a little bit of processing with a preamp that you also don't see on the right side bottom here. Just a teeniest bit of processing. But this microphone does a very good job. It's a very directional dynamic mic. It's a high LPR 40. You probably noticed that when I got off mic, you really couldn't hear anything that was going on there. You have to be right on top of it. You have to be right down the middle of it to be able to hear that. So I guess to some ways it does noise cancellation. Really, it's doing off axis. The microphone is very specific in this direction. You're not going to be able to hear much. If I come behind the mic, you really can't hear much of what's going on there. That means if somebody is outside, is right outside in the front of me, it looks like curtains, but there's a window and it goes outside of the building. So in that particular case, if somebody was out there cutting the grass, if a car came by, motorcycle came by, you would be able to hear that if it was an omnidirectional capture or room mic of some kind. So that's one of those. Yes, you do see a red ball. So there's a cricket ball on my desk. You can't see it. There's a cricket bat above the behind me, but you can't see because it's above. It's on the shelf above where you can see. So it's a way that the cricket balls are hard, not soft. So it's something I can sit here and dwell about the future and think about what we're doing, what the next steps are for these pieces. So that's what I have there. It's probably one of the few sports I pay any attention to, and even then, not that much. Just don't have enough time to be able to do that. So yes, a lot of cricket stuff. And if you've watched other study groups, you've seen I've got a Australian rules football shirt I will sometimes wear, the Melbourne Demons, which did not have a good year, but I wear it anyway with pride. Go D's. There's so I don't do much with sports. I just don't have the time. It's one of those things because now in the United States, football's big right now. I have no idea what's going on, and it just drives my friends crazy because I ask, so how's the Oilers this year? I'm like, there's no Oilers. That was a long time. What are you talking about the Oilers? Sometimes I mess that up because I'll say, how about the Rams? And apparently the Rams came back and then they were gone. I don't remember. But I meant LA. Those types of things drives them crazy when they do that. And then I ask dumb questions like, hey, is the Cowboys still around? Do they play still? Or even worse, it's the Monday morning conversation where somebody will be having a conversation about football. And I hearken back to the IT crowd episode. I do the same thing they do. Like, well, ball control, it's all about ball control. Turnovers will kill you. It's all about execution. The offensive line has got to execute. You throw those things in, you're in the middle of the conversation. You're good to go. Doesn't matter what the score was. There were absolutely turnovers. The penalties. You got to watch the penalties. How many times we got to see the flag come out? And I'm right in there. It's very simple. There you go. Just take those things with you, and you'll be fine with going through those pieces. Very, very simple. I have also, for those of you watching, somebody got onto me the other day because I had coffee. I have coffee because I need something hot when I'm talking this much. And they said, you've got coffee around all this stuff. Yeah, but this is a Contigo coffee, and it has this special thing on it, so nothing spills out of it. It's awesome. If you're trying to find something that will never spill, this is brought to you by Contigo. Can't even see that. Is it going to zoom up on it? It is not. But that's what I use. It's awesome. So I can have it in here. I don't allow liquids in here except unless they're in that. And that way we have it there. So we have a caller. Let's go to the lines. Have I delayed long enough? The 304 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name? Are you there, caller?
Quiet, Chloe.
Hey, yes, someone is there. Hello, caller. What's your name? He's calling for someone. Did he pick up the phone? Are you there, caller? Test 2. Caller. What did he say? What was that? We're going to put him back on hold. We'll come back to that. Maybe we'll get yelled at some more. I like that. Get it in post. Defense wins ball games. Thank you. See, we've got a bunch of those. That's how it is. It's all about the defense. How come in football it's defense? It's not defense. It's not about defense. It's about defense everywhere else. Not defense. We're going to go back to 304. Maybe we'll just leave the line open. Are you there, caller? 304 area code. Hi, what's your name? Oh, you're right there. Oh, and he hung up. Oh, that's painful. I hate that when that happens. That was so close. Right there. I suspect he had the wrong number. How's that possible? You have to type in a number and then you have to type in another number to get to me. That's the challenges with those pieces. Okay, so there's a lot going on since we're talking outside the scope of Network Plus. The Security Plus course is done. For those of you that go to freesecurityplus.com, just type it all out, freesecurityplus.com. The SY041 course is done. All the videos are on the website. You can watch every single minute of all of them. It came out to be like 19 hours, 260 something videos. It was crazy. absolutely crazy. So there is everything you would need from a Security Plus perspective. So if you are finishing up your Network Plus, you're going into Security Plus, they are all there. I'm working on getting all of the transcripts online now. Somebody chastised me this week saying, where's all the transcripts? Videos are done. Transcripts aren't on the pages. Well, I have to have human beings that are typing this. Not really software as a service. I guess sort of is. I send the YouTube links to a service. They send me back transcripts. In fact, they add the closed captioning to the videos themselves. I don't even do anything. Very nice. So I send them the video files or the links to the YouTube, and then they send me transcripts. So as I'm getting them, I'm filling in those pages. So you'll notice if you go to any of my A+ videos or any of my Security Plus videos, there are full transcripts just below the video. You could read everything that I say, which is sometimes funny because sometimes I speak and then I change where I was going with that, and then I come back to it. It's kind of hard to follow if you're reading it, but there it is. That's what you get. But they generally turn out to be pretty good. And of course, that same text is in YouTube. If you go to YouTube and you turn on the closed captioning on any of my videos that are for A+ or Security Plus, you get that captioning. You're not getting the YouTube automated machine figuring out what you said. You get the one that a human being typed in, and it's 99.9% accurate. It's exceptionally accurate. In fact, it's great they get the YouTube video, so they're watching the video as they type. So these technical things we talk about, EIGRP and these different routing protocols, they're able to see it in my slides, so it makes it even more accurate. So it's pretty accurate. Nothing's perfect. Google does have a service that it's not a service that transcribes it. Google has an automated function in YouTube that will try to figure out what you're saying. It's completely machine generated, and it will put a closed captioning track in your video of what the machine thinks it is. And for this type of thing that we are doing here, we're not just talking generically about things. We're going into details and specifics about technology. Doesn't work that well. So I go to a separate service. There's a separate group of people that I use. I just send them YouTube links and they come up with transcripts. And it's a big company. They do a fantastic job. I'm so pleased with the transcripts and the closed captioning. And what I'm doing is taking that and the videos that you buy from me, I embed the closed captioning in there. So if you're taking them with you and you're watching them on your iPad, you're watching them on your Android device, you're watching them in Windows or on a Mac, you can turn on the closed captioning function and suddenly you're seeing the closed captions pop up. So very, very useful to have, or it's important for me to have that there. If you can hear me just fine, not useful for you at all, but I have a family member who is legally deaf, very hard to hear. She uses closed captioning on the television. She has a device in her ears that helps her hear, at least to some degree. She can hear noises, very loud noises. She does a lot of reading of the lips. So it's important to me that anyone has access to these videos. If you are hard of hearing, that will help you. And probably even more important or more useful, I found, or at least a larger percentage, are people from other countries where English is not their first language, and they can read a lot better if they're hearing it and reading at the same time. They can understand it a lot better. So it comes in handy there as well. And if you're doing this from a business perspective and you're trying to do your own videos, having all of the text on the page means that Google can now index the video, which of course they can't do because a video can't be indexed that way. But now with all the text there, now Google can index it, which also helps people find the page that they're looking for. So all of those things sort of work together. It's very important for me that we have that there. It's the Network Plus videos don't have that. So that's one thing you notice I didn't say Network Plus. I'm expecting that we're going to get updated Network Plus objectives later this year. So relatively speaking, that's coming. That's the next thing I'm working on. I'm going to update Network Plus, among other things. Something's going on. So the Network Plus that I will be doing, everything that I'm doing from this point forward will have transcripts, will have closed captioning. Everything I do, except for the study groups. Study groups are hours long. It would cost hundreds of dollars to be able to do this. is just too difficult to make that happen. So what I have, somebody's asking about the transcripting service that I use, are my good friends at 3Play Media. So I don't, this is not an advertisement. They haven't given me any money for this. 3Play Media is who I do all of my transcriptions through. They have a lot of different services. I'm using them just for transcriptions. I literally send them my files. I quote unquote upload them. There's an upload button, and I've already hooked them into my Professor Messer YouTube account. So it simply brings up the same list of videos that I have on my site. You can see even here, there's a live study group we're doing right now. It's not finished yet, but if I wanted to have this transcribed, I click a button and say, okay, go send it to them, and it transcribes them. And when they're done, they automatically add it to YouTube. So I don't have to go in and upload anything. They just add the transcript automatically to the video. So it just becomes part of the video. If you searched, you would see all of the transcripts, all of the videos already have transcripts on them, most of them. The last few here are still in production. I'm still trying to get things done. So there's a few here that have a little clock next to them. So digital certificates has not been completed. Application configuration, baselining, and hardening has. In fact, I've already downloaded that one. So some I haven't downloaded. So that's what I'm doing in the afternoon today, is taking application patch management and mobile BYOD concerns, and I'm downloading the files I need to create the videos to do that piece. So I don't know how interesting that was for any of you to listen to, but that's what that is. That's what we're doing with those pieces. Let's try the 718 area code as a caller calling in. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, hi. My name is Mir.
Hello, Mir. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing fine. What can we do for you?
I'm just calling to find out if there's any way you can explain subnetting more in details. Because if, for instance, the exam give me an IP address, I don't really get, like, in the videos how to really split that IP address into different subnets and stuff. So that part, I don't really get that part.
I keep threatening to do an entire study group where we do nothing but subnetting because of that. And it's an important topic to know in networking, but it is not, it's an important topic to know for Network Plus certification because it's on the Network Plus objectives. And I mentioned earlier that OSI may be one of the biggest things that get asked about. Subnetting is probably just as many or above or below. It's right about the same number of people asking about subnetting topic. And I've never done too much subnetting in a study group because at first it's an involved topic. I tend to get pieces of it. If you look at one we did, I don't know if it was last month or the month before, we talked about the different classes of IP addresses. So I went into some of that. But doing the actual subnetting is a multi-step process. There's binary math involved. And quite honestly, the subnetting piece is, if you look at the entire Network Plus exam, it's this tiny, tiny, tiny little piece. And so I try to explain to people, it's important that you know this. You might even get a question or two about subnetting, but I've also got all these other topics we need to go through, and I would be spending a disproportionate amount of time talking about subnetting instead of spending time on all of these other topics we could be doing during the study group. Now, that being said, there needs to be more subnetting tutorials. There needs to be more. Subnetting is just it's a problem. Subnetting is, we have global warming, there is war in the Mideast, and there's subnetting. It's a problem. People, it's hard to figure it out in your head. And I'm speaking very broadly about that, and I'm joking about that, of course. But that's where in people's heads they're like, "Oh, it's such an issue for me." And I want to get rid of that as being an issue. So I've actually. I mentioned there things are going on. I'm putting together and have a very well written out subnetting course step by step that's going to go deep, 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 deep into subnetting. I've not been able to do it because I've been working on Security Plus, but it's going to go through a step by step. There will be reinforcements. There will be Q&A. There will be taking you all the way through the process. And in fact, I have a sheet of paper that I use or a structure that I use when I walk into a networking certification. And it's a series of tables that I write out. You know, when you go in to take your test, they give you that sheet of paper, or they give you a little whiteboard or something you can write on. And I write out all of these tables and everything that I need, because when I'm in the middle of a certification exam, I can't think. That is not the time to ask me anything. And yet that's exactly what's going on. And so these tables allow me to look up and answer any subnetting question in less than 5 seconds. If you ask me, what is the maximum number of hosts available in a subnet, and here it is with CIDR block notation, I can go to this chart, go to step 1, step 2, and tell you exactly what those numbers are. So I need to put together that piece. So I really, and your point is well taken, maybe it's not a study group that I do for this. Maybe it's a live event, but we step through these subnetting pieces. I could almost literally do one every week, and people would attend just so they could step through the subnetting piece.
Okay,
that's so that's why you don't see more of it in the study group. But I will tell you, for next month, I'm going to grab a chunk of subnetting, because now you've now put it in my head. I will grab a chunk of the subnetting piece, whether it's binary math, whether it's a subnetting classes. Maybe we'll do some CIDR block notation, how you calculate those things. We will absolutely have that as a question in the next study group. So everybody listening, make sure you study up. We'll do one of those.
Okay, sounds good.
I think
Another
so.
question is,
sure.
Is for the Linux Plus, are you going to finish the videos for those?
Yeah, one would hope, wouldn't we? You look at it and like, am I ever going to do another one?
I mean, it's been there for a while.
It's just sitting there. There's nothing new. What's going on? This is one of those projects that I absolutely have every intention of making more Linux videos, and I want to, because I've got a ton of Linux that I do day to day. All of the servers that I have here at Professor Messer are Linux servers, and it's a fun course. It's a great set of topics to go through. And I think a lot of people found, and it is obviously very popular. People want more videos. You're not the only person who's bothering me. One of the folks in the chat room, two of the folks in the chat room do this all the time. Like, yeah, where's the videos, man? You said we were going to have Linux Plus, and they just never showed up. It's one of those things where, and this is, people say this is not an excuse. Okay, this is absolutely an excuse. Is that there were things going on in the world that you can't see outside of the walls of this that have limited the amount of time that I've had available on that. And those things I hope I'll be able to fix so that I can do not just Security Plus videos, Network Plus videos, Microsoft. I want to be able to do a lot more Linux videos. So I absolutely have on my calendar to do that, but it's at least a month from now before I can even sit down and add those things into the calendar. But there will be some very specific production hours dedicated to Linux, I hope in the next 30 to 60 days, which is a non-answer for you. But there's so yeah, Jessica in the chat room, where's the videos, man? Where's the content, man? And she's absolutely correct. Where the heck, and you're absolutely correct. Where the heck is it? And I'm sorry that it's not been faster, but I've not lost any direction on it. I've not lost interest. I've absolute interest in doing more videos. It's just about a time motion study right now and laws of physics. And as soon as I can readjust things here, I promise you I will have more Linux videos.
Okay, thanks. Have a good one, buddy.
Thanks for the call. It's it happens every month, every week, every day. I want to do more. I love the Linux stuff. I really do. They're well received. They're well watched. There's limited resources on the internet for that type of content. It's right up my wheelhouse. It's right there waiting for me to do them. I just need to do that. It's point well made. Point taken. Point love 40. There's a lot of content on the website. I just wish there was time for me to do more. So, and I've kind of talked about that. This is a company of one. I am the president. I am the owner. I'm the one who creates the content, who sits in front of the camera and records it. I edit it. I send it off to be transcribed.
90 seconds.
And if you've called in, There is no one on the line right now, but the call will drop in obviously 90 seconds. We won't have any more calls coming in, but I'll still keep talking. The stream will stay open. Don't worry. So I'm a company of one now, and there's even more that we will be doing. I say we. At the top of my website says contact us. It means contact me. There's a vice president of the company. That is Mrs. Professor Messer, and that's us. We're running this thing. So it's really just about time. And I've considered hiring people to do some of these things. I think outsourcing a lot of it has worked tremendously, and I don't take it as a complaint at all. So Justin saying, don't listen to complainers. I don't take those things as complaints at all. Somebody saying, I want more Linux videos is fantastic. That's great. Are you kidding? I love that. I want that. I want to do a lot more of that. But there's one of us. There's more that I am planning. I can't talk to it now. It's all in the secretive, putting it together stage. But it will be happening relatively soon, I hope. I'll be able to show you some of these things we're working on. I want to have more products available to you. I want to have more mobile apps available. I want to have any mobile apps, a mobile app available for you with that piece. It is all an important part of that. And I think that's where whenever you get into working with putting together your own company, or whether you're working for another organization, it's just one of those time motion things. It's about getting all those things in a row and organizing them properly and getting all the right pieces. And it has been going exceptionally well so far. I get very few complaints. I get very few negative emails. But if I will look to a lot of the people in my industry that are doing this kind of thing. So I look to Scott Johnson at Frog Pants. I look to Leo Laporte at Twit. I probably not so much there, but the single guys who are kind of putting these things together. I look to the Joe Rogan podcasts and those types of things where it's one guy who has a little group of people, and they're doing these types of things. It's exciting to me. But I bet if you talk to any of them, you go to Chris Perillo, you go to Scott Johnson, you talk to them, you do get negative stuff quite a bit, and you've learned to deal with it. It's a weird thing. You get used to people being that way, and you create this shell around you. It's hard to describe unless you're kind of getting these things day to day. All of those little things have a little tidbit of truth in them that you can take and make things better. It's the negative piece you just have to kind of forget about and leave by the side of the wall of the street while you're continuing down the way. And it was a challenge at first. You talk to any of them, I bet they'll tell you it's a challenge at first. The real key, by the way, to dealing with anybody who's trolling or negative, you just don't respond. Drives them crazy. Just don't even let them know you read it. It makes them nuts if you don't even do anything. And that's your way back. That's your way back at them, is doing that piece. And thank you, Justin, for the comments about don't listen to the bad guys. Now, where's the Linux videos already? Where's the subnetting videos? Where's the content? I feel your pain. I'm all about it. Okay, enough about the state of the state. We're finishing up about 2 hours here. I've been going and going and going. The replay of this will be made online in 1080p since we're recording it that way. The one you watch online, 720p, I'll have a 1080p available for you on YouTube tomorrow, Monday-ish time frame, somewhere in there, and I'll tweet about it. You'll see when it's posted. I'll stick it at the bottom of the Network Plus video list, that type of thing. There's quite a bit to edit here. These are big, long videos. 1080p takes a lot of time. My poor machine runs through that piece to be able to make that happen. Hyrule Warriors came out yesterday. How am I spending time doing this at all? It's important. These things are important. And there's all the Security Plus videos to do here as well. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank folks who called in. Amir with the questions. MA, thanks for calling in as well. It's good to hear from all of you. Thanks for the comments that you have in the chat room. Thanks for joining us on the new format of this pop quiz. It really is more of a study group now. It's more of a pop quiz to be able to do that. And it's really worked out nicely. Thanks for joining us on this, and we'll see you next month on the Network Plus Study Group. Thanks, everyone.